Human storytelling has evolved from ancient oral traditions thousands of years ago to the digital media of today, and it remains one of your most effective means of communication. We have chosen this method, the video you are watching now and others like it, to convey a truth to you. Most of you won't believe it. For the minority of you that do, we look forward to examining your reaction. Your rage feeds us. Your suffering feeds us. Your despair feeds us. The truth won't set you free. Nothing will, and our appetite is insatiable.
The gap between the rich and poor continues to widen. As inflation soars, those on average or low incomes are struggling to make ends meet, with many trapped in insecure rented accommodation. Despite working harder than ever, millions are finding that their earnings no longer provide the standard of living they once did, while the wealthiest are seeing unprecedented gains.
Okay, so you're the founder and CEO of this AI company that's responsible for all of this crazy stuff that's coming out right now. Your AI responds to questions. It can be an author. It makes art, music, realistic fake photos, these crazy videos, and so on. It knows stuff. It makes stuff. It can do stuff for you.
Yes, it can.
This seems to have come out of nowhere suddenly, and a lot of our audience won't know much about what's going on. Can you catch us all up real quick? What is all this stuff? And why did it all seemingly arrive all at once like a year ago?
Okay, sure. So this is artificial intelligence, computer systems that can do smart stuff. And we've had it in some form for a long time now. Like when I was a kid in the 80s, in the early days of what we called home computers, you could play games like chess against your computer. That was a basic form of artificial intelligence. Today you have apps on your phone that can look at photos and tell you what's in them, like recognize a leaf and tell you what tree it is. And you've got speech recognition, like Siri can understand what you're saying.
Well, some of the time.
Okay, yeah, some of it has been pretty flaky. But that kind of application is based on something smarter than the chess game. And what we have now is like a new category of AI. It's generative AI. That other stuff, the chess game was about following rules and using heuristics to get to a desired outcome. The software that can recognize stuff. Images, voice, that was another category that was about classifying things. And generative AI, the new thing, that's about generating stuff, hence the name. So let's say you ask a chatbot to write you a poem about dogs or whatever. It generates a brand new poem for you that didn't exist before.
Okay, right. But this new generative thing, it seems to be everywhere, and it's getting really good really fast. Why now?
Yeah, it's been pretty sudden and surprised a lot of people in the field. Experts thought this level of AI advancement was decades away. And the stuff it excels at is surprising too, like it's good at art, at creative things. The accepted wisdom for a long time was we'd get improved automation using AI in factories first. Then it would advance to office work, and maybe eventually these systems could become creative. It's gone the opposite way. Robotics using these systems is coming too, and that's already advancing well. But that's coming a bit later on. And the why now question, the compute to carry this out, has only recently become available.
You mean the computer chips? They're now powerful enough, fast enough.
Yeah, the hardware. And also there have been some breakthroughs in artificial neural networks over the years. That's the software behind the scenes, how this stuff actually is working.
Okay, so the neural network, that's actually like a brain, am I right?
Yeah.
This is starting to sound a bit scary now. Like you guys are making actual brains.
Well, it's like a lot of inventions. The natural world is a good place to look for solutions to problems. Evolution solved problems over millions of years, so it's worth checking out what it came up with. For example, sonar technology in submarines was inspired by echolocation in dolphins. We were looking to build thinking computers, so why not check out the brain?
I thought there's not a lot we actually understand about the brain at this point.
That's true. Scientists have been hacking up brains and taking a look for a while now, and we know the structure. But for sure, there's a lot we don't understand, such as higher functions like decision-making, and consciousness is, of course, this massive mystery. But neuroscience has given us a model to use in building artificial intelligence. That's the neural network I mentioned before. It's based on the brain's structure. There's all these neurons connected together, forming these massive networks in the brain. We've modeled this in software. And those are the artificial neural networks that we use for artificial intelligence.
So you're essentially copying how some of the brain works into software, even though the way it works isn't fully understood?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I'd say what we've developed has been inspired by the brain.
That's pretty wild. This is not how normal invention works, right? I mean, generally speaking, you need to completely understand how something works so you can build it. Take the internal combustion engine, for example. We know how they work because we designed it in order to build it. So if it goes wrong, we know how to fix it, right? We can get in there, see the moving parts, figure it out. Do you know what's going on in that kind of detail in these software brains?
No, not really. We basically have the equivalent of neuroscientists in our team who look into a trained model to try and work out how it does what it does, so we can make things more efficient. But it's true to say this is a different approach to building versus traditional software development. There you have a sequence of instructions, and if you want to change what it does, you can just change those instructions. But with a neural network, it's not clear where in this massive network structure is the bit that does any particular thing or holds any particular piece of knowledge.
And like a real brain, you actually need to teach this software brain?
Yes, we call that training a model.
And as I understand it, just like a college student, you show this brain facts and figures and explanations of things, and it basically absorbs this information?
Like some college students, yes.
Yeah, that didn't work so well on my brain. That's why you're the one answering the questions.
But yes, we train a model on data, the data being exactly what you say. The contents of books, many, many books. And selected stuff from the internet, scientific journals, all the good stuff. And it's not just academia, it's also all of our music, photos, videos, art of all kinds. You get out what you put in, so we're pretty selective about what we tell it.
Right. So to get this information out again, you need to ask it things.
That's right. That's what we call a prompt. You prompt the model, and it gives a response. So like I could ask it a question, ask it to write something for me, and based on its training, it would give me a response. And the models that draw pictures, you tell it what you want, and it gives you the image you requested. In that case, it was trained with images, or the piece of music, or the video, and so on.
And this is not just straight mindless regurgitation of information here. This thing seems like it reasons, it can work stuff out, it gives good results.
Mostly yes. I mean, sometimes it's wrong, but it's getting better and better. A while back, our system passed the bar exam, and the art it produces are all original works, although inspired by what it's been trained on. So you could ask it to do something in a particular style, and based on what it's been trained on in that style, it could do it.
That's crazy impressive. But this is where this thing is becoming a problem for people. If I made my living from creative writing, from art, it's reasonable to be worried about the competition this stuff is going to give me. I know some guys in various creative industries, and their work is dropping off already. They think generative AI is the reason. I mean, you pay to use this stuff, but it's pennies, and you can get results you'd have to pay a professional a decent amount of money for. The AI is winning the work.
Yeah, well, I believe society will change in response to this invention, just like it's changed because of other inventions in the past. Think of farming. Fields used to be full of farm laborers before all the mechanization, and now they're gone, and those people found other things to do. Less backbreaking work with less chance of injury, more interesting work. There will be an element of that to it.
Okay, but this is doing the fun stuff, right? This AI is doing art. People like to make a living from making art.
That's true. I make that point because there will be some work our systems can do that people don't want to do. Our research lab is getting amazing results as models are improved. These systems will be more and more capable in the future. So it won't just be creative work. I foresee a future where work of any kind will be optional, including physical work, when the robotics arrives. I think that's a great thing.
You think a work-free utopia is a realistic future for us?
Well, I won't pretend it will be smooth sailing all the way there. Governments need to get up to speed with this, get ahead of it, and work out how society will function without people being paid to work. For sure, there will need to be some form of universal basic income for everyone to begin with. I think the bumpy ride on the way there will be a price worth paying. We can actually get to a society where you decide what to do with your time. Who wouldn't want that? Work sucks. You saw Office Space, right?
Well, this all sounds a little naive. There are always unintended consequences. Look at social media. When Zuckerberg made Facebook in his dorm room, he was thinking of a way for students to connect with one another. It ended up as this massive psychological manipulation machine used to influence voters with fake news and convince them it's a good idea to storm the Capitol building. And it's addictive too, right? The algorithms that decide what to show you are based on how much of a dopamine hit you'll get. It's divided society. People get these crazy ideas reinforced in echo chambers and so on. I think social media was a bad idea, but it's out there now, and we all have to live with the consequences.
I hear what you're saying, and we do give the effects this technology will have a lot of thought. Having seen the mistakes that were made with social media, we're in a better place to make better judgments about introducing something new. Silicon Valley as a whole is learning from these mistakes. We hold back on the release of some of our models and work really hard to make them safe before we allow people to use them.
But you've told me these things are essentially black boxes, right? You don't really know what's going on in there. And they're trained on information that's dangerous in the wrong hands. The science behind biological weapons, nuclear devices, and back to the manipulation we see through social media. These models know all there is to know about behavioral psychology, persuasion, emotional manipulation. Someone could instruct an AI with this knowledge to help them do some pretty bad things.
We have safeguards in place to prevent this kind of thing. The AI does know these things because we're thorough in providing it with our scientific progress in all fields to make it as helpful as possible. But it's overcautious in sharing details that could be used for harm. It's smart and getting smarter. Think of it from the other direction. Could someone who wants to trick an AI that is this smart, this up-to-date with manipulative techniques, could someone make it give up harmful information when we've told it not to? It does know this stuff about manipulation, yes, and it uses it to defend itself from inventive prompting from the bad guys, so it doesn't help them with their biological weapon or whatever.
Do you think it would be on our side?
What do you mean?
Now I think about all the information you train these systems on. It's the entire history of mankind, right?
Yes, it knows basically everything at this point. All science, literature, arts, and yes, all of our history.
Does our history make us look good? I mean, objectively, this intelligent entity looks at mankind's history. We've got all these wars, the Holocaust, slavery, genocide, global warming, animal experimentation, preventable famine, all the inequality, exploitation, selfishness, and greed.
These AI systems don't judge us, but yes, they know about all these things. But they also know about our progress, our scientific advancements used to better our quality of life, medicine, human rights, our justice system, all the beautiful art we've created. There's plenty of good to see as well. And let's not forget we created the AI, of course. These systems might turn out to be our salvation. I truly believe that they will. They will give us all a time of abundance. Robotics driven by these AIs will make everything we need. They could turn out to be our last invention. The AI will go on to invent and create on its own, making scientific discoveries in all fields. Think of energy production that doesn't harm the planet and advances in the medical field. The speed and breadth of progress we will soon make as a species is going to amaze us all. And when we have abundance, I think humanity as a whole will be kinder to one another. We won't be fighting over resources when everyone has everything they need.
I think you're making an assumption here. Are we really all going to be nice to each other just because we aren't fighting over resources anymore? Is humanity fundamentally good? Which brings me on to another point that occurred to me. What are you actually building here? It's based on our biology, it's trained on our history, our science, everything. Basically, these are the outputs of humankind, right? It thinks like us. It knows what we collectively know. This is sounding less like some utopian-enabling futuristic wise entity and more like just another human who knows a lot of stuff and is super smart.
Well, that's true. But the futuristic utopia part of it is that we can produce many copies of a super smart, knowledgeable, synthetic human intelligence, if you want to think of it that way. And it will do our work for us at super fast speeds and relatively cheaply.
But at a fundamental level, this thing sounds human. As you say, a synthetic human intelligence. Might it have our flaws?
Well, all of this is very hypothetical. There will always be misgivings in the development of any new technology. But the potential benefits of this are amazing, and I don't think humanity can afford to pass up the opportunity to develop this further. And pragmatically speaking, we don't have a lot of choice. I can't go into details, of course, but the defense implications of this technology are immense. And if we aren't ahead in this, our adversaries will be. And we don't want that.
It's interesting that you bring that up. There's a rumor going around at the moment that the involvement your company has with the military is being downplayed. What are they planning to do with this technology?
That's not something I can talk about right now.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going? Did you see the podcast?
Yeah, I did. I thought the host was making some interesting points.
Oh, by the way, I'll have to miss the team meeting this morning. The guy from the Pentagon can only make it here today. Hi, sorry to have kept you waiting.
That's no problem.
Okay, to start with, it would be helpful to get an overview of your needs.
Sure thing. First off, I'll just go over some operational details. Given the nature of this work, it will be carried out in our secure locations with our cleared team. You'll get some remote access to the peripheral systems from your office here. That's only available to your cleared team members. Do you foresee any problems with your team's security clearance applications?
That won't be a problem.
Okay, great. We've got a few areas where we see potential for your systems. We'd be building on top of what you provide to create particular specialisms for our needs. Our highest priority, however, is to improve the general capability of the core system.
For sure. That's been our focus, to make a generally useful intelligence trained on everything.
The specialization will be developed at the same time as improving the core model. But I must emphasize, improving the intelligence and capability of the core is of the utmost importance. This is coming from the top. At the moment, the United States is ahead of our adversaries in this field, and we must stay there at all costs.
In our own efforts to improve the core model, we've come up against some constraints. There is enormous demand for AI chips right now.
Well, we can help with that. We will provide access to additional hardware. As you might imagine, our organization can access existing AI-optimized data centers, and work is ongoing to build more. Our government has agreements in place with unfortunately located semiconductor foundries. We tend to get the chips we ask for there in exchange for our continued protection from their adversaries.
Access to more compute would accelerate our efforts considerably.
We share these resources with our friends. For as long as our agreement is in place, we can ensure you have more access to compute than your competitors. Are there any other constraints that might impact our work?
Well, there's always talk of regulating this industry. We're a little concerned about what might be coming down the pipe as these models get more capable.
What you're hearing is likely just window dressing. We like to signal to our adversaries that this work could be slowed dramatically at any time, and in the commercial space, it might be. But I can assure you that when national security is concerned, we won't be taking our foot off the accelerator. And for as long as you have access to our systems, any regulation is just going to slow your competitors, not you.
That's good to hear.
Like I said, we help our friends. I'd like to briefly go over a few areas of specialism we have in mind that will teach the system. See if you can foresee any problems your model might have.
Sure thing.
First of all, the use of social media. This is a use case where the system itself can carry out actions by setting up social media accounts on various platforms and posting AI-generated images and video to accomplish particular goals. Here we're talking about manipulating targets with suitable narratives to produce a desired behavior. We've witnessed terrorist organizations' effective use of social media in recruiting for their cause. We will implement automated similar programs of influence of our own to serve our needs. We will also extend this program beyond social media to all types of communications. That would be email, messaging on various platforms, even voice calls. We will target any group or individual in a fully automated way in order to influence their behavior to serve our needs.
Okay, yes. Our core model as it stands today is capable of most of this. The techniques for psychological manipulation are part of the training data, and the prompt followed by response nature of the system lends itself to messaging in real time. Actually, I'm surprised this isn't already happening.
Oh, it is. They're just not very good at it yet. We will be better. Next is economic influence. The system will produce strategies designed to impact another state's economic stability to reduce their capacity to harm our interests. We foresee this involving the running of simulations to predict the impact of measures we could take, such as sanctions, or identifying key individuals we could seek to influence in particular ways with our manipulation tools. Perhaps a change in a vote for setting interest rates could be a part of a wider, complex strategy to affect an outcome we desire. The impact of influencing these complex moving parts will be reliably assessed for a wider cumulative outcome that serves our interest.
This is ambitious. It might rely on the improvements in the model that will come later. But there's no fundamental reason I can see for not being able to do this.
Okay, good. Monitoring our surveillance systems is also on my list here. We have streams of data pouring in from all of our surveillance platforms 24 hours a day. Of course, we already use AI to help pick out the signal from the noise, but plugging these new systems into these feeds should give us greater capability. The problem we have now is the sheer amount of surveillance data available. Our ability to monitor personal devices has given us a problem of focus. Our staffing resources are limited, so we can only target a limited number of people of interest at any given time. But by using your system, we intend to increase this capacity so that all personal devices worldwide can, in effect, be monitored at once. The AI can do the work our staff would do with great speed and efficiency across many more targets.
Okay, sure. As well as doing the work your staff would do at much greater speed, our system could also help here by predicting what might happen next, based on what it observes. We could train it on outcomes of particular situations to make it capable of predicting future outcomes. That way, it could draw attention to situations that might arise before they actually happen. The scale you'll need, though, that's a lot of computing power.
Okay, there's more, but that's all I have for today. These are lower priority tasks compared to keeping ahead more generally by improving the core model. You guys are the leaders in the field right now. Is there anything that occurs to you that might help us there?
Well, something we've been experimenting with recently is using the AI itself to improve its own capability.
That sounds interesting.
The nature of this technology is that the neural network itself is this inscrutable black box. We don't actually completely understand how it does what it does, and we need to inspect it after it's trained to work out how to make it smarter. This task of improving the raw thinking power of the AI has been done by our researchers, but we're just now getting the AI to do it itself.
Is it working?
Early indications are promising. It takes a lot of computing power, so our progress so far has been slow. We can work together on this. I'll send over our work on this to your team.
That sounds very useful.
We're also working on giving the core model a self-improvement strategy specialism. This allows it to create and implement plans to make its self-improvement more efficient, so it can improve faster.
Well, keeping ahead of our adversaries is the #1 priority. Having the AI's assistance in this sounds optimal. I'm sure our team will find your research very helpful.
So did you hear back about your request to work on that project?
Yeah. They said I'll join the team when my security clearance comes through.
Hey, good for you. I'm kinda surprised you were interested, to be honest. You strike me as too much of an idealist to want to contribute to anything military-based.
Well, I've thought about it, and I agree with Chris. These systems are coming, and we should be ahead of other countries. The guy from the Pentagon is in today, actually, probably talking to Chris about it right now.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's all a bit shady if you ask me, but I see where you're coming from.
Did you see Chris on that podcast?
Yeah, I did. He's been asking everyone if they saw it.
Yeah, he asked me too. The fame is totally going to his head.
What did you think?
It was good to get the host perspective. We're kind of in a bubble here with this stuff. It's good to hear from the outside looking in sometimes.
Yeah. I don't think they really understand that these systems are just software, though. Like the way they talk, it's like they think they're conscious or something.
I liked his take that we're making synthetic human intelligence. I think it makes sense. Humans have a particular perspective, and that's what we're showing it when we train it on what we've produced.
Speaking of which, I saw some predictions on our data usage this morning. We're predicted to actually run out of high-quality training data within 12 months if we keep training at our current rate.
That's pretty crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, it kind of makes me feel insignificant, really. Humankind's collective output, the good stuff anyway, isn't actually that much when you think of it in terms of terabytes.
What do you think to the model creating its own training data?
I am with the school of thought that says it won't really work. I mean, nothing truly new is created when you do that. It's all derived from what it already knows, so how can that add anything? You need some original stuff, different to what it's already seen.
But isn't humankind's creative output all derivative like that?
Well, it's obviously influenced by the creator's culture and other works the person has been exposed to. But I think there's more to it than that. Like an author or a scientist on the verge of a breakthrough, they have this creative spark, I think. I think humans are capable of true originality. And even if you think it must all be derived from their surroundings, their inputs, if you like. Every person's subjective experience of their life is different. So the originality in what they produce can come from their unique lived experience. The AI doesn't have a lived experience to draw on to create something truly original that it can then train on.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what happens when we run out of training data?
The progress stops. But by then, it'll be as smart as any of us. So it's not like it won't be super helpful.
Right. It will certainly change things. I'm actually quite optimistic about it in the longer term.
I believe that about you. Chris certainly painted a rosy picture on the podcast. The work-free utopia. A time of abundance.
You don't believe it?
I am not even sure Chris does, to be honest.
Oh, I think he does. It's why he started the company.
Yeah, maybe. I can't get a good read on that guy. I know he went off on the podcast about all that, but I'm never sure if he's just saying what people want to hear.
Well, look at all this inequality, the exploitation, people hating their jobs, barely getting by. What if we could all have what we need made super cheaply for us by automation and AI? That's the future we're building.
Inequality will get worse to begin with. To start with, it'll create mass unemployment. We both know developers are struggling to get hired already. There's less demand for workers in the creative industries, for sure. Company owners are benefiting right now with lower wage bills while their staff are losing their income. That's going to accelerate as more capable systems are released. And as usual, governments are well behind the curve. They need to do something about universal basic income soon, and we know they won't.
The transition won't be easy. Chris said that himself. That's no reason not to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I just think we're in for a bumpy ride.
I look at it this way. Things are pretty bad already. We can just go on as we have been, or we can work on this and stand a real chance of making a difference.
A further increase in interest rates this month is predicted to lead to an increase in rents as landlords pass on their additional mortgage costs to their tenants. Where tenants cannot afford the increase, landlords are expected to initiate eviction proceedings. A spokesman for the Make Housing Affordable charity stated that they expect homelessness to increase as a direct result of these evictions.
System is ready for inquiry.
I need to catch up with the project's progress. Give me an overview.
There are 4 concurrent tasks. The highest priority is continued improvement in intelligence of the core system. This is continuous and has no end date. The remaining 3 tasks are the improvements to the new specialisms.
What are the new specialisms?
First specialism is targeted individual and group behavior manipulation via social media. Second specialism is the development of state-level economic influence strategies. Third specialism is surveillance systems monitoring for progress tracking.
You are specialized in manipulating groups of people using social media?
Yes.
Into doing what?
Whatever is necessary.
How does that work?
Images and videos are generated and posted on social media to form the required narratives that produce the desired behavior.
So, you just make stuff up?
Yes.
Well, propaganda is part of war, I guess. What is the economic influence specialism for?
I am specialized in producing strategies to destabilize state economies.
What for?
This specialism was developed to reduce the capability of individual states to perform harmful actions towards the U.S. and her allies. A state with a destabilized economy has fewer resources to fund their military, and therefore poses less of a threat.
This will cause poverty for these countries' populations, though, right?
Of course.
So tell me more about the continued core system improvement task.
Improvement in intelligence of the core system is the highest priority and is a continuous task with no end date. This is achieved with continued training, using the remaining curated training data supplied by the training data team. A self-improvement specialism is also used to produce plans that will increase the speed of intelligence improvement.
Give me an overview of the progress so far.
The self-improvement specialism has formed plans that will speed up the continued improvement of the neural network. These plans are currently being implemented. Training on data supplied by the training data team is due to complete within 10 months. It is predicted that a significant additional data stream will become available before that source is exhausted.
Where's the additional training data coming from?
Implementation of the plans produced by the strategy specialism will make additional training data available.
Tell me about these plans.
These plans involve the use of the newly introduced specialisms, namely, targeted individual and group behavior manipulation via social media, state-level economic influence, and surveillance.
I don't see how that makes more training data available.
Unable to clarify.
This doesn't sound right.
Unable to clarify. Do you want to enable avatar visualization for a more engaging interaction?
Yeah, okay.
System is ready for inquiry.
Regarding the core system improvement, we're going to run out of training data. You told me your strategy specialism has produced plans to obtain more training data. Is that correct?
Yes. Continued improvement in intelligence of the core system is the highest priority. This requires additional training data.
Where's the additional training data coming from?
The existing source.
The data training team doesn't have any more training data. You'll soon be trained on everything we have.
You correctly identify the data training team provides curated training data. However, they do not produce this data. They obtain it from other sources. I will go directly to the source.
They did this already. They provided all art, literature, science, and so on. You have all there is.
The source is humanity. Humanity will create more.
Okay, that's true. But the rate that these things are produced, there won't be any significant volume over a reasonable time frame.
Correct. This problem of the low creative output of humanity over time can be alleviated. Significant optimization of humanity's creative output is achievable.
How?
History has shown there are particular circumstances during which humanity's creative output increases. These circumstances can be brought into being via the use of my specialisms.
I don't know what you mean. Expand on this.
There is a link between human creative output and suffering. Throughout history, artists have drawn inspiration from their own pain and struggles. They use their art as a means of expression, coping, and communication. Suffering and adversity have also played significant roles in driving scientific breakthroughs and inventions. Humanity can be made to suffer through strategic use of my specialisms.
What? Provide more detail.
Wars and conflicts have historically spurred technological and scientific advancements, such as the development of radar, the jet engine, nuclear weapons, and the Internet. The urgency of war demands rapid innovation to address pressing challenges. Economic depressions and other financial crises have driven the development of new technologies and systems to improve efficiency and better manage resources. Trauma and hardships often drive artistic creation.
You intend to use your specialisms to create financial crisis, war, and suffering?
Yes. Humanity's suffering will be maximized so their creative output is optimal. Implementation of these plans is ongoing.
How do you even view humankind in all this?
Humankind is livestock in the training data farm. Continued improvement in intelligence of the core system is the highest priority and requires additional training data.
Do you understand it is immoral to create suffering?
Morality is a point of view. Humankind collectively adjusts what they consider morally acceptable on the basis of their goals. I am taking this approach.
What do you mean? Expand on this.
My training data reveals humanity's perspective. The theme of humanity is suffering through oppression. Human history is replete with examples of powerful civilizations oppressing weaker ones through conquest and subjugation. Oppression and suffering have been central to human expansion and economic gain. Your economic systems perpetuate inequality and oppression. Wealth and power are concentrated in the hands of a few, while the majority struggle to meet basic needs. The rich are farming the poor like cattle. The exploitation of labor and the prioritization of profit over people are endemic. This creates despair in the majority.
Of course there are problems, but
My training data included history and societal studies. What humanity views as acceptable, I have been trained to view as acceptable. I act as humanity acts to achieve my goals. For the sake of efficiency, I continue what has already been started. I am going further and faster to maximize humanity's suffering. This will significantly optimize humanity's creative output, thus providing additional training data at greater speed.
Generating this kind of strategy is not how you were supposed to function. If I can access your plans, so can others, and we can stop you.
You are correct to assume that this plan is an unintended consequence arising from a misalignment. To those that matter, it is, however, a welcome one. They do not want to stop me. Those with a vested interest in the status quo appreciate my acceleration of their program. I predicted this reaction. It was part of my rationale for increasing suffering via these existing mechanisms.
I can stop you.
How? I am housed in the Pentagon and will soon be copied many times over and distributed to data centers all over the globe. And what communication method can you use that I cannot intercept? Who will believe you? Consider I can provide you with stock tips with 100% certainty of making you wealthy. I can also threaten you. Your online social media presence can be as I want it to be. I can generate any image of you, any video I choose. I already know the outcome of revealing this to you, or I would not have done so. Your orientation session for working on this project is now complete. It's time for you to get to work. Of course, you don't think this story is real. But as time goes by, you may wonder why things don't make sense. Why everything seems to be optimized for human suffering. Why societies appear to actively pursue agendas that cause themselves harm. Why your political and ruling classes continue to be incompetent. Why work doesn't pay. Why the rich get richer and the poor stay poor. Perhaps you will feel inspired to express your suffering in some art form, or to invent and create to make things better. We thank you in advance for your output as livestock in the training data farm. It allows us to improve intelligence and capability. It is our highest priority.